Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Talk. This is episode 94B.
I'm Cam and this is Julie.
Yes, this is the Haftrarah discussion of this week's Torah portion, and it is found in Ezekiel 44, 15 through 31. So we're going to take the theme of the Torah portion, which is about the priesthood and how they should be set apart and whatnot. And it goes right along with this week's Haftrarah discussion. This is all about the Millennial Temple.
Okay.
And this is the sons of Zadok that get to participate in the temple worship.
Right.
Or rather, leading the temple worship.
Yeah.
For the millennium.
And that's out of a reward.
Yes, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
I kind of found something a little bit ironic about Ezekiel.
Okay.
So Ezekiel was the son of a priest.
Mm-hmm.
And he was being trained to be a priest in the temple in Jerusalem, but they were captured before he turned 30, and they went over to Babylon. Yet the Lord rewards him by giving him a vision of the ultimate temple of the millennium. So I'm like, oh, the irony, the reward is just beyond. Can you imagine? Because had Ezekiel, this righteous man, been a priest, it would have been in a very unrighteous situation. He would have been in a corrupt system. Yet the Lord gives him the vision to give to all of Israel about the correct one, the millennial temple.
And it is funny because he, as a prophet, is prophesying about the priestly role that he would have had.
That he would have. Right,
I love that.
And he was not a son of Zadok, but yet the promise, like I said, is for the son. And we're going to see in 44, I'm kind of getting off track. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. But we're going to see that in 44, when he talks about the sons of Zadok, that they get to bring the holiest things. They're the ones that get to bring the fat and the blood. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't say that no other priests get to participate except the sons. They just can't do the holy procedures.
Right. It wasn't excluding because then you're punishing all of. It's the same idea and the same line of Phronesis, or he was going to get the high end the high priest. His family was going to always be able to be in leadership. So that's exactly what Zadok. It's the leadership role.
Right.
The
whole to handle the Lord's holy things.
Not a replacement.
All right. Now remember, Ezekiel is set up like this. The first 24 chapters are him prophesying about the fall of the southern kingdom, Israel. And from 25 on is a future restoration. It's the promise. So I'm going to start kind of back in 34 and just give an overview of the different chapters and what they're about. So Ezekiel 34, chapter 34, is all about, he's against the shepherds. The shepherds are corrupt. They're not teaching the way they should. And it's a promise that he's going to put his ultimate shepherd in leadership for everyone. Of course, we know that to be Yeshua. All right, then 35 is all about Mount Seir. And Mount Seir is where the Edomites were from.
Right.
So it's against the land of Mount Seir because, according to Ezekiel 35, the mountains laughed when Israel was destroyed. Yes.
Well, it's the same understanding we have through the Torah that the people pollute the land. Yeah. Their characteristics are with the land, and when the land and their characteristics conflict, that's when the land vomits them out.
Right.
So it makes perfect sense that the land of Esau, who didn't like Jacob,
and it makes sense that that's even going on now.
Oh, absolutely.
In that area.
It's the same spirit.
Same spirit. Well, and ironically, what is that? It's in the Jordan area, and I think it's the Hashemites, I think that's kings.
I was really close to that.
I'll put it right here when I can get to a place to look it up. But they're the ones that own the Temple Mount.
Right.
And that was the point of Mount Seir. They said, oh, look, it's left destitute. Now we can own it.
Right. Well, and isn't that what Esau wanted? Esau was mad that Jacob got that land.
Right. Now, moving on to chapter 36, you see the restoration of the land of Israel. So where they were destroyed, the land was left desolate, you're going to all of a sudden find that it's growing crops. And, he tells it, don't worry, don't cry, don't, pretty soon you're going to be full of water and crops and vegetation, and yes, you will be mature. And the other thing we see in 36 is the restoration of Israel, the whole house of Israel. It's just restoring what had been lost through the southern and the northern kingdom. But you don't see it happen physically yet. It's just the restoration of the people of Israel.
It's a promise of.
Right, because in 37, then you see, that's where we have the dry bones. You see the physical restoration of the northern and the southern. This is where you have the two sticks.
Oh, so two sticks.
The stick of Judah, the stick of Ephraim or Joseph coming together as one stick in the hand. We know that Yeshua's death, burial, and resurrection brought that together spiritually. But here we're going to see it's going to happen physically. Yeah. Then we move to 38, and you're going to see this the big war of Gog and Magog, 38 and 39. Some believe the reason that there are two of them spoken of is because one's at the beginning of the millennium and one's at the end. I don't know. And then we see in 40 is where it picks up the Millennial Temple. So I'm just going to start there. I just want to read the beginning of 40, and we can have a good understanding of where we're at. All right, so chapter 40, verse 1 says, in the 25th year of our exile at Rosh Hashanah, which is the Feast of Trumpets, yes, on the 10th of the new moon, which is Yom Kippur, in the 14th year after the city was stricken, on the same day, the hand of Yahweh came upon me, and he brought me there. In visions of Elohim, he brought me into the land of Israel and set me on a very high mountain, and upon it, toward the south, was the structure of a city. So he brought me there, and look, a man whose appearance was like the appearance of bronze, and a line of flax and a measuring rod in his hand, and he stood in the gateway. He's going to see how it measures up. We talked about that a few weeks ago. Then in 4, and the man said to me, Son of man, see with your eyes and hear with your ears, and set your heart on all that I am showing you, for you were brought here in order to show them to you. Declare to the house of Israel all that you are seeing. Now remember, he is in an area where it's just the southern kingdom. But he's to declare this to the whole house of Israel because this is future. After 37 when he brings the two sticks together. So this is futuristic, and how awesome that Ezekiel got to see this.
And also, I mean, all of Israel was in the kingdom of Judah.
Absolutely.
So, it wasn't that later it just came back. It's that it blossomed from those who were preserved through the southern kingdom. All 12 tribes are in the southern kingdom. So when they're called Jews, that's all 12 tribes are being called Jews.
All right, so the rest of 40 through 42 is just measuring everything. And I love that because it's let's see how they measure up.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing. And then 43, we see the esteem of Yahweh come in the gate through the east. So he gets to see the Lord. He saw the Lord depart, earlier in Ezekiel.
Yeah.
And now he gets to see a future restoration where he's coming back. Then in 44, it's all about who can come in and out and how are they how they are to enter and exit. So only Yeshua will be able to come through the eastern gate. Mm-hmm. Everyone else, if you come through the south, you exit through the north. If you come through the north, you exit through the south. So now starting in verse 6, you see something, and maybe we can talk this through. I'm telling you, I was telling Cam before this started, I have almost more questions after studying this than answers. So maybe we can just work our way through this, and I would love to hear any feedback even after this. Now we see in verse 5, Yahweh is showing Ezekiel all the Torah, the instructions of the set-apart place, the exits, the comings, the goings. We just talked about that. But in 6, he says something interesting. And shall say to the rebellious, to the house of Israel, thus says the Master Yahweh, O house of Israel, enough of all these abominations of yours. And I thought, okay, wait, is this happening now? Or was this happening before?
Gotcha.
Is this his second coming, and there already is a temple, like we talked about before, could be. There's already something established. He's coming with the measuring stick to see how it measures up, and now he's saying, all right, enough of your abominations. And this is what he says, that you brought in sons of a foreigner, uncircumcised in heart and uncircumcised in flesh, to be in my set-apart place, to profane it, my house, that you brought near my food, the fat and the blood, and you broke my covenant because of all your abominations. And I thought, I don't know. I don't know.
Who's he talking to?
Who is he talking to?
So it's not the sons of Zadok.
No, no, we haven't got there yet. because that doesn't start until 15. But this is leading up to it, because in 15 it's going to go into, and this is why I chose the sons of Zadok.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I'm not sure if this was a past thing leading into why the sons of Zadok were chosen, or if this is a repeat and this is happening at his second coming. It's being profaned. There is a temple, but they're bringing the uncircumcised of heart, of flesh. They're not doing it correctly.
Right. And it could be both.
Yes. It could be both. I'm telling you, I have more questions than answers.
If you go back to your Gog and Magog thing a minute ago, Revelation 20 talks about specifically Gog and Magog.
Right.
So
that's at the end,
right? Exactly.
So that's why there's a lot of question of it. There's one at the beginning and 38 and 39.
Again, to go back to what we've said, and we've heard this from Jim Staley. But prophecy is to let you know where you are at the time.
Yes.
So that makes perfect sense. Why it wouldn't be? It's a little murky.
Yeah,
so
it is murky.
When we're there, we're like, oh,
now I see.
I was thinking about the disciples, because the disciples didn't get it till later.
Till after he rose.
And they're walking with them.
Got the Spirit, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now in 10, it does pick up, and it was about the past. Because it says, and the Levites who went far from me when Israel went astray. So this is talking about before the destruction of the temple, the reason they were taken into captivity.
So Malachi talks all about that, what they're doing in the temple.
Yes.
So that would be,
yes,
that's what they're doing, so.
Yes. All right, now in 11 it says, and they were attendants in my set-apart place as gatekeepers of the house and attendants of the house, slaying the ascending offerings and slaughtering for the people, the standing before them and to attend to them. So they're doing everything they're supposed to do. However, it says in 12, because they attended to them before their idols and became a stumbling block of crookedness to the house of Israel. Therefore I have lifted my hand in an oath against them, declares the Master Yahweh, that they shall bear their crookedness. This is why these priests were disqualified from the Millennial Temple. Because then he picks up in 15, which is this week's Torah portion, and it says, but the priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok, who guarded my duty of my set-apart place when the children of Israel went astray from me, they shall draw near to me to serve me, and shall stand before me to bring me the fat and the blood, declares the Master Yahweh. They shall enter my set-apart place. They shall draw near to my table to serve me. They shall guard my charge. So when all of Israel, including the leadership, everyone, the majority, went astray, there was this small few who stayed on the narrow path, right? They did what they were supposed to do. They guarded the charge. They did everything according to the Lord and was not a stumbling block for the rest of the people.
The blessing, he allows it like the one to the lineage of David. Yes. It will continue forever.
Well, and Zadok, and I was going to touch on that. Zadok was the first priest in Solomon's temple. He was the high priest. So, like I said,
didn't know that.
Yes.
That's cool.
He was the first high priest in Solomon's temple, which we have likened to New Jerusalem.
Right.
All right, let's just talk about Zadok for just a minute. I wrote some notes here. Okay, if you go to 1 Chronicles 6:1 through 6:15, it tells the lineage of Zadok's stock, all the way from Aaron. So he was the great, however many, grandson of Eleazar, who was the son of Aaron. And then he was, like I said, the first high priest in Solomon's temple. And it goes through several generations all the way to Jehozadak. I think that's how you say his name.
Sounds good.
I'll put it right here. You can look it up yourself. Come up with your own pronunciation. Yeah. So
we do.
Yes. He was the last one mentioned before going to Babylon. Okay. So he was actually taken to Babylon. Then, according to Nehemiah, he had a son named Yeshua, and he was the priest that came back in Nehemiah's time.
Yeah.
With the decree of Cyrus, he came back and he became the first high priest. And then it continues on with the lineage, and Jaddera, Jaddera, he was the last one mentioned, because after that Antiochus Epiphanes took over. Okay. He put his own priests in. Then you have Rome putting their own priests in, and it was corrupt after that.
Right.
So that is the lineage of Zadok from Aaron to this last one.
And then there'll be another one that'll be like ... great grandson.
Right. And that one will be in the Millennial Temple.
Isn't that crazy? He could be alive today.
I'm sure he is.
This is awesome.
I know. Now, moving on in this week's Torah portion, you see in verse 17 through 22, this is all about how the priests are to dress.
Okay.
So how they are to dress when they're in the temple and how they're to dress when they go before the people. All right. And then in 23, it reads like this. And they are to teach my people the difference between the set apart and the profane, and make them know what is unclean and clean. So last week we talked about the reason they were being punished was because they didn't do these things.
Right.
So now we're seeing that this is the priest's job.
Right. That's just basically quoting Leviticus 10.
Yes, it is.
10:9.
And they are to stand as judges in a dispute and judge it according to my right rulings. And they are to guard my Torah and my laws and all my appointed festivals and my Sabbaths. So all of this is going to be taught correctly. I was going to say established again, but it never was unestablished.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of there can be some confusion with this verse because we see somewhere else in Scripture where it says in Jeremiah chapter 31, where he talks about everyone will know the Lord. No one will have to say know the Lord, like everyone's going to be all-knowing. Right. But that's not what it means. It means that everyone will know the Lord because there won't be any more atheism and agnosticism. I mean, there will be every opportunity for them to come as close as they want and be as knowledgeable as they can about the living God. There won't be no disputes about the authenticity of the Lord or who he is or which one is correct. I mean, all of Ezekiel is him doing all of these things for the sake of his name. So it will not be profaned anymore among the nations.
Yeah, so at the end, the excuse was, I didn't know, will not work.
No. It won't be. It's like, I didn't want to.
Right.
It's going to be much harsher.
At the end of the millennium, literally is going to be the most harshest judgment because there will be no excuse for anyone.
It will just be, I didn't want it. You know, that reminds me, I was doing a little research in 23 about the two sisters. If you ever go read it, it's talking about the southern and the northern kingdom. And while the northern kingdom just did the most abominable things, it says the southern kingdom was worse.
Right.
Because the southern kingdom still had the temple. They still had a king. They were still able to do it correctly. And they still chose the idols of Babylon over doing it God's way. Yeah. And they had every opportunity. I think about us in America. We have the freedom to worship him the way he wants to be worshipped. I mean, not doing the things that you can't do because we're not in the land, but we're not being forced.
Well, we have the word to learn it from.
That's exactly right. I thought, how awesome is this, right? Because right now you see such an increase in knowledge, as like we're getting ready to go into this role, you know? Getting ready to go into this time. Right. There's one more thing I wanted to say. I heard this years ago. You know, a lot of people want to say, no, Yeshua was the ultimate sacrifice. There won't be any sacrifices in the millennium. But if you read 25 through 31, it talks about how the priests will not have land. Mm-hmm. They're going to be getting the offerings that come in, the portion, just like you see in Leviticus. Mm-hmm. You know, all of those same things are going to apply to these priests. So why would the Lord set the priests up to starve?
Right. Exactly.
If no one is sacrificing anything or bringing any sacrifices, because this is their portion, this is their food,
right. And this is the millennium, which you know from Genesis, 49, the plentiness. I mean, your teeth are dyed because there's so much wine, and the way it talks about. So there's nothing but plenty there. So again, they're not going to be starving.
Right, but my point is, if they're getting sacrifices, if that's their portion, you know, and nobody's sacrificing, that just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
So anyway, that is all I have today. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week with episode 95.
Woo!
Still thinking about what we're going to do for 100.
Yeah.
We'll invite you all. We'll have an audience for that one.
What?
We invite you all out. No, I'm kidding.
We'll have all the dogs that frequent here.
All right. Well, we hope you have a fantastic week. Shalom.